Hi everyone, welcome to Change Begins, our weekly podcast where we discuss the zeitgeist of the nation with stories of change driven by citizens, along with subject experts who delve deeper into the issue at hand. Continuing with our COVID series, in this episode we will be talking about the revival of rural employment in India's largest state. Since the COVID pandemic forced the nationwide lockdown, citizens across the country have taken to change.org to press for change. Be it demanding free transport and food for migrant workers, protective gear for doctors, movements against school fee hikes, and campaigns against domestic violence, among others. The plight of migrant workers and the loss of livelihoods has strongly resonated with people who signed up in large numbers on change.org, gathering tremendous support for the issue. Today we have with us Sachin, the Deputy Chief Minister of Rajasthan, talking about the job crisis brought about by the COVID pandemic and how his government provided millions of jobs to citizens right where they were without having to leave their homes. Hi Mr. Pilot, welcome to Change Begins. So first things first, before we start the core of our conversation today, what do you think went wrong in India's handling of the migrant crisis? What did we not do right?
I think we could have planned better if we have a whole strategy in place of getting our citizens who are stuck abroad back into India through chartered planes or flights. I'm sure we could have planned better in keeping our trains and buses ready to be able to transport these many people. When you shut down a country for almost 2 months, you realize that out of job, out of money, they will get distressed, they will get, the anxiety will set in, and they'll move back to their homes. And when you have a lockdown, what do they do? And they start walking in the streets. It's truly disturbing for us, for a country like India, to have so many people out there, old people, young children, barefoot in the heat walking. It's absolutely unacceptable. I think more planning could have been done, and frankly speaking, even the amount of resources deployed for engaging trains and buses is absolutely negligible. These are the people who, with their sweat and blood, have built the buildings, worked the factories, made India a strong economy that we are. So we owe to them. I don't think we've been able to do that as much as we should have. And even now, that it's not ending, fortunately, the state versus center. That attitude, it doesn't help in resolving the crisis situations. There's blame game, there's race to take credit. We should all put this behind us and really make sure that these hardworking citizens and our brothers and sisters are made to reach home as safely as quickly as possible.
A lot to think about and reflect there for governments both at the center as well as in the states. As Mr. Pilot just said, it should not be about shifting the blame or running to take the credit. Now coming to the job revival that happened in Rajasthan. Over the last 2 months, the Rajasthan government managed to generate over 3 million jobs in the state, at a time when the entire global economy is struggling to create new jobs and even finding it difficult to sustain the ones that already exist. How did it happen?
You see, my first aim was to somehow contain the spread of Covid-19. We knew it's a global endemic and it will hit India sooner or later. The first patient was discovered on March 2nd, and we aggressively moved to detect more people, test more people, and then after isolation and treating, making sure that we are on the recovery path. Unfortunately, the numbers are still rising, but I think we've been able to contain at least some pockets of the urban areas where we have a lot of spread of the COVID-19 virus. But subsequent to that, in the middle of March, I also realized that once factories shut down, India goes into complete shutdown, you will have to somehow breathe life back into the economy. And once the shop floors are empty, factories are shut, industry is completely on a standstill, how do we revive the income generating processes of the people in the rural hinterland in my state? So we started a new initiative, which is the existing program already envisaged, which is to make sure maximum number of people get enrolled and get jobs through the NREGA scheme. So on April 16th, the first review meeting I had, we had about 60,000 people enrolled, just 60,000. Today I'm happy to tell you that more than 32 lakh people are getting employment through NREGA. We've increased the daily wages from 200 to 220. It's a great way of getting people some cash into their hands. And I'm of the opinion that unless you have cash in the hands of the poorest people, you can't jumpstart the consumption-based, demand-based economy that we have in India. Unless you give people the purchasing power to buy commodities and daily stuff they need for their existence, you can't really expect factories to churn out more and more products because there's no demand. So you need to put money in the hands of the people, and this, I think, is a great, noble way of doing so.
But in these times, with the lockdown in place and people wary of coming out, was it difficult to convince them about it?
Well, initially, people were apprehensive whether they should come and work. whether the department will be able to create that many jobs, whether they'll get paid on time. So all these apprehensions were put to rest at the beginning, and they knew that we are more than committed to giving people the jobs that they could do. And these are all unskilled, semi-skilled individuals. So they really are the poorest or the bottom of the pyramid. And now that the farm work is almost over, many more people are getting the opportunity to work and generate extra income for their families. Because it was slow to take off because people were apprehensive, they were a bit scared about going out and working, and there were all sorts of rumor mongering. But what we did was we activated the village sanitation committees. The head of the committee is a sarpanch. He or she would go door to door, explain people that you can work together, just maintain a comfortable distance for 6 feet. And we also started giving a lot of work in individual work. So today, 80% of all Narega work in Rajasthan is done in constructing people's own homes, their own toilets, and working in their own farm fields. So clearly, when you work for your own home or your own field, you have that much more interest in doing a good job and doing a timely job. So that was sort of incentivization we were able to provide to the working community.
So with so many people coming out to work suddenly and working fairly close to each other at that, what's the kind of planning it took to shield against the risks of COVID in such a situation? What sort of special instructions did you have in place?
So we made sure that we were able to provide people with masks and sanitizers and soap bars in the Narega kit, and so that they feel safe and hygienic. And we also made sure that all the officials working on the ground ensured hand washing. It wasn't just a generic order of saying make sure that they remain hygienic, but we said they must wash hands 4 times a day. So 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I mean, that's the routine that we started off with. Imagine if the COVID-19 were to spread in rural areas. All hell will break loose because we don't have the capacities to undertake the healthcare system to treat so many people. Luckily for us, in some sense, that if the virus spread is limited to cities, it's not gone into the villages. And I had to be doubly sure because I'm asking people to come and work because I want to generate income for them, but I can't put them at risk.
Lately, concerns have also been raised about people having to work tough jobs in this scorching peak summer heat. And besides that, there are people who are older but still need jobs to survive and sustain their families. How did you address all those concerns? Because this is a huge scheme.
We changed the guidelines in Rajasthan because I felt, when I was on the tour in many districts, I felt people who are 60, 70 years old should not be doing such hard physical labor. I think it's not appropriate. And so the tasks assigned to them were quite, not challenging in terms of physical labor. So, making sure that they're drinking water, making sure that they're able to do, some sort of lighter sort of work. And I think that's appropriate. Why should we have older people, putting in that much effort? So we also ensure that there's, for example, a creche in every Narega spot. We also want to make sure that the work gets finished before lunchtime, because meal times usually people come together, right, sharing food and stuff. That could have been a hazard to their safety. Later we decided that it's now almost peak summertime. So we shifted the time of the Narega day, starting from 6 a.m., finishing at 1 p.m. So there are many things that went into planning and executing this. And today Rajasthan ranks number 1 in all of India in terms of number of jobs given under this scheme.
Also, a lot of locals who were working in other states as migrant laborers have come back to Rajasthan recently, because they lost their jobs there. Almost 13 lakh people have come back in. Do you plan to accommodate them as well?
So a majority of these people are still people who have been living here. The influx of the migrant labor is still going on. So I think a small percentage right now is people who are coming from outside. And we've already surpassed, so Rajasthan actually has been number 1 in Narega for the last year and a half. So last year we had about 31 lakh people at this time of the year, last year. So today we have 32 lakhs. And when many more are coming back into their native villages, they will also be given this sort of job. I've written to the government of India asking them to enhance the number of days of Narega from 100 to 200, because these are very, very difficult circumstances and we need to empower the poorest amongst us. So we had to, initiate sort of and encourage people to come and enroll in this program. A lot of people coming back from other states to work in Rajasthan to their hometown and home villages. So we've also made sure the process of getting the job cards is that much easier. So because people are coming back in the lakhs. And when they come back, they're coming back unemployed, they're coming back almost broke with no money, disappointed, I'm sure. So this is, I think, a platform where we're able to give jobs even to those people who come back to their native villages after having lost their jobs in other parts of India. We as a nation have come together, and we have to, because this is a challenge, probably the biggest ones in our lifetime. And we have technology, we have resilience, we have resources, we have a young population. There's no reason why we'll fall behind. We must learn from the experiences of other countries. For example, US, Italy, UK didn't fare so well because I think they didn't plan enough, and they weren't as careful as they should have been. So we have learned from those mistakes. We need to continue to test more. Unfortunately, the numbers are still rising, but we've been able to contain it to the urban centers, which is a good sign. But now we have to, learn to live with the sort of new parameters of social distancing, of keeping hands clean, not crowding up places. So whatever the Government of India or the state governments are outlining, we must as citizens follow those guidelines to the T.
Yes, it's a challenge unlike no other that we faced, and we have to fight it with resilience. And as Mr. Pilot said, we need to learn from our mistakes and those of other nations, and learn to live also with the new ways that this pandemic has necessitated. So that was Sachin Pilot, the Deputy Chief Minister of Rajasthan, sharing with us the job revival story of rural Rajasthan and how the state government is ensuring that those migrants who are returning to Rajasthan from other states where they've lost their jobs also find employment within the state. That's all that we have for you in this episode of Change Begins. Log on to our website to check out the range of issues that we are working on. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. If you have any comments or suggestions, do write to us. That's all for now. Thank you for listening.